The basic definition of clarity is seeing life as it actually exists. So it's not like last week, or the week before, I'm sorry, we talked about, I talked about living almost like a deceptive, in a deceptive way, because I made up excuses for my behavior and I acted in ways that I thought I justified or rationalized. But clarity, having clarity, is seeing life as it actually exists, not the way we think it is, hope it is, it should be, but what it actually is. And sometimes that can be very challenging, and it can actually be painful, because if you're a hopeless hopeful like I am, you want to hope the best about the people in your life and about the situations in your life. And sometimes that takes away from us actually seeing things the way that they really are. So on your paper there, it says growth and healing begin with establishing clarity. If a person refuses to establish clarity or minimizes the importance of it, that person cannot really grow or heal. So before I started really digging into the whys of why did I get so angry at things that Mike was doing, granted, the things that Mike was doing, well, let me backtrack for those that weren't there. Mike and I got married at 18, probably less than 2 years into our marriage, things started falling apart. He started doing drugs, spending our money, going out partying, while I ended up staying at home with our 18-month-old daughter. When he would start getting ready to go out, I would just have, this rage would come into me, and I would give myself permission to get angry with him, to the point where I would throw things at him. I almost killed him once with a butcher knife because I threw it, and if he had stood up like a second before, it would have went right in, which I'm not proud of. But until I got a hold of the whys, why am I getting so angry? Why, no matter what he was doing, I had to take a look at the whys of what I was doing, how I was reacting to what he was doing. So before that happened, I couldn't grow, I couldn't heal, because I was living in self-deception. I was justifying why I was getting angry, because he was doing what he shouldn't be doing, so I had a right to get this angry. And none of us really have a right to get angry like that. No matter what someone else is doing, the gift that we are given is the ability to control ourselves. I couldn't control him, and God knows I tried, but I couldn't control him. I had to learn to control me. The second paragraph there says, clarity helps to establish fact from fiction and guards against self-deception. It is the foundation upon which an individual can begin the process of taking ownership of his or her life. So I had to take ownership of why I was getting so angry. Now, on the surface, it looked like I was getting angry because Mike was doing things he wasn't supposed to do as a married man. He was getting dressed up, he was going out and partying, he was spending a lot of time with single guys doing what single guys do, and he was a married man. So on the surface, it looked like, you do have a right to get angry. He should be staying home with you. He should be doing the things that a married husband, a married father should do. But when I started digging deeper, what really was motivating or triggering my anger was fear. Underneath, I was very fearful of what he was doing out there with these single guys and what the future held for me and my little 18-month-old. So establishing clarity in your life, it opens a lot of doors for you to take a really deep look at yourself. And that's what this Arise is not about pointing fingers at someone or pointing fingers at your parents or maybe someone in your family that may have hurt you or whatever. This is a program of self-evaluation, to look at yourself and say, why do I do the things I do? Why do I act the way that I do? Why do I react to things around me the way that I do? So Dorothy, one of our leaders, isn't here tonight. She got a tooth pulled and she warned us that she may not make it. But she let me borrow her binoculars, and I said this week one, I'm a visual learner, so I like visuals. And so this is my visual about clarity. I should take these off so that
they look expensive.
Yeah, don't make me nervous. I don't want to drop them. So this is what clarity is about. If you think about these binoculars, and you can be at a sporting event or I don't know, horse racing or whatever. When you put them up to your eyes, do you see things clear right away? I don't see anything. She's got some weird binoculars. That always helps.
Well, that's the level of clarity some people.
We'll talk about a visual. Okay, so if you take off the caps and you look through the binoculars, do you see things clearly at first? No. You have to adjust them to wherever it is you're looking, whether it's close, whether it's medium, whether it's far away. This is what clarity, establishing clarity in your and my life does. Right now, when people live and their life is like unclear, it's fogged, for whatever reason, there's just a myriad of reasons why it could be foggy. Sometimes we don't even think about why we're doing what we're doing, how we're doing it, why we're reacting the way that we're reacting. But when we establish clarity, when we start seeing things, okay, this is hard. It was hard for me to admit that even though Mike was doing things that he shouldn't be doing, as a married father, I had to establish a clarity in my life that my actions were wrong. That me getting so angry at my husband that I was throwing things at him and, cursing at him, and none of that, ladies, none of that's gonna work. If you have a husband that's not doing what you think he should be doing, yelling at him is not going to work. In fact, the very opposite is what worked for me. When I started saying to myself, okay, Jackie, first of all, I became a Christian. And then I just felt very convicted about the way I was acting. And so I would have conversations with myself. Jackie, you know that the way that you're acting is not lining up with the word. So we have to think ahead. We have to plan ahead. We have to figure out what we can do, to not act that way. And so he didn't change. He would start getting dutied up on a Thursday night was ladies' night at the disco. Yeah, that's how old we are. We went to the discos. So he still continued to do the things that he was doing, but I made the conscious decision that I was not going to react that same way. And that's what triggered something in him to start thinking, what's wrong with Jackie? Number one, it intrigued him. Number two, he didn't have the same excuse. Well, you're just a crazy Irish woman who has a temper and screaming and yelling at me. Why would I want to stay around you anyway? So he didn't have that excuse anymore. And he wondered, what is going on with my wife? Like, she's different. She's not screaming and yelling at me. And that, I think, almost drew him more than me ever screaming and yelling and throwing things at him ever did. So this lesson is about gaining clarity for your life. What is your life really like? How do you react to things? Why do you react to things the way you react to things? Why do you give yourself permission to do things that you know that you shouldn't do? Okay, here we go. And then establish clarity about that, the whys, get deeper on why do I act the way that I do? Why do I react the way that I do? And then the last one there, the last small paragraph, clarity properly established provides personal empowerment and true personal insight, which is what I was kind of explaining. When I started digging deeper inside of myself, I started realizing things that on the surface I would have never thought about. And unfortunately, I had friends who kind of fed my justifications and rationalizations. So be careful about that. Be careful about who speaks into your life. Make sure that they're going to speak truth into your life and that they're going to help you to establish the clarity and not feed into all your justifications and rationalizations and things like that. Any questions about that? Yeah.
Oh, they're on the table.
I will get one. No, I'll get one for you because Mike's up.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
No. Oh, I got like a pull muscle in my gluteus maximus. Just 1 second.
I didn't mean to kick you that hard, dear.
Thank you.
You're up there.
Yes, I'm just letting that great teaching you just did sink in a little. All right, so there are 3 components to establishing clarity. So we're going to start to walk through those components. And again, the object of the lesson is to be able to evaluate where you are, okay? And to be honest about that. So the first, we call these the 3 C's. So the first C is condition, which talks about your mode of being, your state of life. It's right out of Webster's. Where am I presently in life? This is a great question to ask. Not where I hope to be or I want to be, those things are fine. But to establish clarity, we have to understand exactly where we are, right? And so that becomes the first question, 1A there. Where am I presently in life? You know, relationally, vocationally, spiritually, all of these emotionally, did I say emotionally? Nope. So where are you in those situations? Are you in the relationship that you want to be in? What condition is the relationship? Where are you spiritually? Where are you vocationally? Do you have the job that you want to have? Are you getting the results that you want to get? Or are you deceiving yourself and maybe others about where you are, right? So what goes along with this is one of the 6, and this isn't in your lesson, this is free. One of the 6 self-defeating learned behaviors is tap dancing. And the definition of a tap dancer is someone who cannot commit, so they dance around. You cannot nail them down to, are we gonna be in this relationship together? Are we gonna open this business together? You know, they dance around, oh, don't hold me down, don't tie me down. That's one of the things you need to ask yourself. Am I able to commit, first of all, to myself? Are you giving yourself the best opportunity to succeed today? If you were to evaluate yourself, your thoughts, your actions, are you giving yourself the best opportunity to succeed, or are you hiding and running and hiding parts of yourself from other people? Are you afraid to go after goals? All of that is understanding your condition, right? So where am I presently in life? There's a bullet point under there because we're not trying to trick you. So one of the things we want you to do is acknowledge, your present condition, and to start the process of taking ownership of your life. You cannot change unless you continue to take ownership of your life, right? If I don't own our backyard, the weeds will. So if I don't get out the lawnmower come summertime, the weeds will just automatically start to grow. So if we own this property, we need to own the property, right? And so as you take steps to be clear about where you are and how you got there, that becomes just critical. So we want to acknowledge your present condition. Doesn't mean you're gonna be in this place for long, but you have to understand where you are before you can go forward. And then to start the process of taking ownership. The way you start the process of taking ownership is to acknowledge your present condition and to think about that question, where am I, right? And then the next question becomes automatic, letter B there. How did I get to my present condition? A year ago this time, I was in the process of losing 37 pounds. I got up to about 240, 241. I'm only 5'8½". I'm 62, and my doctor was like, hey, you got too much weight on you. You're already a type 2 diabetic. Your blood pressure's starting to go up. You need to get something going here. You need to change, right? So how did I get to 241 pounds? I ate myself there. She didn't force it down my throat. She's a great cook. The vending machine didn't grab me out of my chair at work and make me come down to the vending machine. When I get stressed at work, I go to the vending machine or McDonald's or something, right? Or Rocky Rococo. So how did I get there? You have to be able to own that without placing blame, because blame doesn't set you free. What sets you free is facts. Yes, both my parents were alcoholics, but they're both passed away now. And so what do I do with that childhood? How do I find meaning in the pain to go forward and to be successful? So how did I get to my present condition? Examine your past relationships. Now, most of us don't like to do this. We like to lie about our past relationships, especially our responsibility, and we put a lot of pressure on the, oh yeah, she or he or they, and we put all the responsibility and bad stuff onto those people. That's just how most of us go about life. Examine your past relationships, decisions, and behaviors. Why? For the purpose of establishing facts without getting bogged down in placing blame. When I'm counseling with people, sometimes it takes people weeks and months to get out of placing blame, and they get stuck there. Some people never get out of there because it becomes a lifelong, like, get out of jail card to somebody. Well, it's not my fault, it was this work. You know, if I continue to blame my parents. Yeah, it's a fact, they were alcoholics. It's a fact, they gave me away at birth. But I'm an adult now, so how am I going to examine those relationships and those behaviors and decisions that they made? How do I reinterpret that, right? They were going through trauma, so I reinterpreted, not to let them off the hook, to understand what was motivating them. C, where am I trying to go in life? So you've got to get to the point where you're saying to yourself, okay, what are my goals, my hopes, my dreams? And if you don't have any, I'm concerned about you, right? Because it might be an indication you don't think you have much to live for, and that concerns me. We should all have dreams, goals, something we're working toward. That very thing can pull you through difficult times. So when I went to school, because I do everything the hard way, I didn't go to school at 18, right out of high school. I joined the military, which was probably the best decision I ever made. When I got home from the Army, I still didn't want to go to school, so I didn't end up going to school until I was in my 40s. I got to do everything the hard way. I got a wife and 4 kids. We're trying to pay off a mortgage. I'm working all day, and then I go to school 3 to 4 hours at night. So I'm sitting in class with 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds who are supposed to be in college, and here I am sitting there, I'm 40-something years old. I'm the oldest person in most of my classes. Why did I bring that up? Oh, so I was trying to go somewhere, though. I knew that if I could get a degree and get my clinical substance abuse counselor's license, that I could be able to do groups and work with people individually, which is what I really want to do. So that thought of being able to try to help people is what pulled me through difficult times. What gave me the energy to go to class that night, right? Her hope, this all got started with her hope of a better marriage and a dream of a better marriage, pulled her through my stupidness. She should have threw a knife at me, and she probably should have shot me for the stuff I was doing, to be honest. So I don't want you to think she's a bad person. It was me. But her desire to have a better marriage, she didn't want to get a divorce. She was a Christian, and she wanted God to heal the marriage, created an environment for me to get healed. That's when she really became attractive. In high school, she was hot. Spiritually, she became attractive when she was able to forgive me. It's a big difference. I mean, she's still hot, but I'm just saying, spiritually, right? So where am I trying to go in life? Identify if any goals have been made. Do you have any goals today? It could be short-term, medium-term, or long-term, right? The fact you need goals in each category. You need some short-term goals, and we usually say short-term is, 1 to 30 days. And then we usually tell people medium-term is 60 to 90 days. And then long-term goals are usually 90 days to the end of life, right? But you probably need some goals, and what are you trying to do, learn, change, become in the next 30 days? So she's going to worship practice tonight. So while she's at worship practice, I just love trying to figure out people. I bought this book called Scarcity Brain. Don't buy it. While she's at worship practice, I'll be sitting out here somewhere reading this book. I'm trying to learn this book. I'm about halfway through. Helps me when I'm counseling with people and stuff. We should be lifelong learners. What are you trying to learn, do, become in the next 30 days? In the next 60 to 90 days? Long term, what are you trying to become? And if you will lay your life out that way, it's actually very motivating. Because as we achieve goals, it becomes easier to go to the next goal, right? We've all done the diet thing. And you lose a few pounds, whatever it is, 3, 5, 7, and you get on the scale and you go, oh, all right, now I can go for 10 pounds. You are motivated by your own achievement. But if you don't ever set a goal of losing the weight, you're not going to get on the scale, and you're not going to do the things you need to do to lose the weight. That's what we're talking about. Identify if any goals have been made. Start the process of setting a plan in place to reach goals. When we get to the second part of the program, we're going to go through that heavily. But I'm just telling you, you need to start planning, which means you need to put it in writing, right? Contractors and architects don't build houses and buildings from their memory. I can't tell you how many times people say to me, I'm counseling, oh, I got it in my head, I don't need to put it in writing. Yeah, okay. We're gonna, God willing, have a new patio door put in when the weather breaks. I got some friends that do home improvement. They better come over and take some measurements and stuff. I wanna see them writing it down. Right, I got your measurements in my head. That's not gonna go well. Plans are written, right? So when you start to write a plan, I don't mean it needs to be 10 pages, but you need to have something in writing of where you're trying to go and what you think is gonna be the best way to get there. And then letter D, what is my plan to achieve my goals, right? So what is my plan to achieve my goal? I gotta stop going to the vending machine so much, because I'm starting to gain that weight back. I gotta stop going to Rocky Rococo's, McDonald's. Put the initial plans to reach your goals on paper. We were just talking about that, put it on paper. Important things like wills and deeds and all of that stuff are on paper. They get filed with the court, right? So that if, somebody passes away or something, we know who the beneficiaries are. We know what that person wanted to do with their property. Because, all kinds of cousins come out of the woodwork when they think there's some money to be our property, right? And everybody, oh yeah. D, what is my plan to achieve my goals? Put the initial plans to reach your goals on paper. Identify a reasonable time frame for reaching your goals. Any questions or comments about that? Now, while that sounds simple, as Jackie said, this is difficult if you do it the right way. If you sit down and ask yourself those questions, where am I presently in life today? How did I get, so to be honest about where you are, for some people it's difficult because maybe you're not where you wanted to be. But the good thing is you still have an opportunity to get there. As long as we're breathing, we have the opportunity to pursue those goals. The pursuit can be as good or better than actually achieving the goal sometimes. It's like traveling, right? If you're driving, the journey can be as exciting or more exciting than the destination, right? Where am I? How did I get here? When you can tell the truth about how you got here, you have taken an unbelievable step, and one of the things you've done is you've robbed the devil of all of your past to continue to beat you over the head with. Where the enemy gets his power is from when we lie and we're deceitful and we try to keep things hidden and covered up. The minute you confess it, and usually the results are never usually as bad as we think they're gonna be, or he tells us they're gonna be. The minute we confess, you know what, here's what I did, or here's what's been going on, people tell me all the time, I feel like I had a weight lifted off. You did, right? Where am I? How did I get here? That honesty about how you got there without blaming. Where am I trying to go, and how am I gonna get there are very powerful questions. You're up.
Okay, so once we establish this condition, then we can do number 2, which is make a commitment to it. Commitment is dedication to reach our goals. It's hard to commit to something that's kind of vague, or, like, I always tell the story, like if you're standing at the altar with your significant other that you love and cherish, and you're gonna get married, and the person who's marrying you starts talking in Swahili, are you gonna say I do to that? unless you know Swahili, no, because you don't know what they're saying. So it's hard to commit to things that are vague or cloudy or you don't understand. So by establishing that clarity, like I'll take myself for instance, when I established clarity about the whys I acted the way I did, then I could develop a plan to not act that way. And I say that, it sounds like, oh, it was just a plan and you just did it. No, it was hard. It was hard, because it's hard to break a habit that you've been doing for your whole life. You know, getting angry was mine. Fits of anger was mine. Right, I gave myself permission to do it, but when I say that I developed a plan not to do it, it's not like it was easy, and it wasn't like it changed overnight. It was something that I had to commit to, and I had to think before the situation actually happened. How are you gonna react, Jackie? What are you gonna do to not react in the old pattern? That's what so commitment is the dedication to reach the goal. My goal literally was to not get angry, to not throw things at and scream and yell at my husband. That was my goal. I had to commit to that. I clarified it, then I committed to it. So commitment demonstrates daily progress toward your goal by establishing priorities. One of my biggest priorities, and this is gonna sound weird, was to not spend as much time with my mother. Because my mother was a very, I don't wanna say bitter, but she was an angry person herself, because she was previously married, and her first husband cheated on her, and she never healed from that. So she had just preconceived notions about, or beliefs about men, that they're all the same, they just have different faces. That's what she would say. And she, literally, me and my three sisters just tarnished us with negative things. And so when I established my clarity, and when I set my goal of not getting angry, not throwing things at my husband, not screaming and yelling, I had to spend less time with my mom, because whenever I would go there and I would come back home, he would know right away, you've been with your mom, haven't you? Because my attitude, it was very difficult not to let that attitude rub off on me, and then I'd find myself looking at him like, yeah, you're all the same, you just have different faces. And that's terrible, because that's not true. So in your life, look at your life. What do you need to establish clarity? What one or two things do you need to establish clarity for in your life? And what goal, one or two goals, it's always good to start small. And what we usually tell people is start with the one or two things that are most negatively affecting your life or the life of the loved ones in your world. Those are the things you start with. What goal do you need to set? What priority do you need to set? Are there people or places that you need to stay away from? Are there things on TV you need to stay away from? Are there places that you need to stay away from? That you have to safeguard yourself. So again, I had to stay away from my mom. It's not like I cut her out of my life, but I didn't go and associate as often with her until I got stronger. Once I came back into our household and God began to restore our marriage, then I got strong enough where I could, when my mom would say things, I'd say, Mom, that's not true. you know, she'd say, men are all dirty, they're all blah, 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 and I'd say, Mom, that's, you know, that's not true, that's not my experience. I've experienced gentlemen that are loving and care for their wives and don't go out and cheat and run, and so, again, establishing your life. So commitment, establishing a daily focus on your priorities will eliminate distractions. Distractions are all around us. It's like when Mike started thinking about, you know, I gotta lose weight, blah, blah, blah. The job you had before didn't have a vending machine, did it?
No.
All of a sudden, he's got a job with a vending machine. I'm like, okay. Distraction. There's distractions everywhere. It is up to us, when we establish clarity in our lives and we start setting goals, it's up to us to establish what is gonna be a distraction and what is not.
Go ahead, finish your thought.
No, I was just gonna say, with any goal, we have to commit to that goal. And we have to not allow other people to set priorities for us. Is that what you were gonna say?
Yes, that's exactly.
Mike was gonna say that if you go to a doctor's office and you say, I wanna see the doctor, what's the first thing they say? Or ask you? Do you have an appointment? If you go in and you walk into a lawyer's office, are you gonna just be able to, I wanna talk to the lawyer? No, they're gonna say, do you have an appointment? So they have set their priorities and we have to set ours. We can't, you know, I'll take Mike as an example. Mike, before he established clarity in his life and set his own goals, his buddies would call him up, hey, you wanna go and smoke a whatever, sure, you know, you wanna go do this, sure, you know, he had no priorities of his own, you know, like, yo, Mike, you know, I'm your wife, this is your child, these should be your priorities. So, again, we have to establish our own priorities and eliminate our own distractions. And sometimes that can be challenging, because, you know, at first I'm sure my mom was hurt that I wasn't over there as often, but for the sake of my sanity, the healing that was happening in me, and the healing that was happening in my marriage, that was worth it.
So that first part of number one there, demonstrate daily progress, is a very important statement. When you're demonstrating daily progress, it means you are focusing more on you than what's going on around you and other people. You're setting your own God-given right to have your own priorities. Don't let someone else set your priorities, right? But the daily progress, demonstrating daily progress means I have a plan, I have an outcome, and I'm measuring myself against that. Not somebody else. I'm not letting someone else establish my plan for me and tell me what my outcome should be. People are quick, oh, you don't need to go to church. You don't need that Christianity stuff. You don't need to talk to a counselor. You might need both of them for a time. Well, you always need church, but you might need to see a counselor for a period of time. But to help you get your thinking in line so that you can make daily progress is built-in accountability. I'm not talking about, oh, I'm gonna do something 6 months from now. That's not a goal. That's an excuse to get people to leave you alone or to make you feel better, right? Thank you for letting me share that.
Okay, and C is daily challenging your comfort zone. These are, we call the triplets. Comfortable, familiar, predictable. We all like comfort. We all like something that's familiar, and we all like things that are predictable. So in order for things to change in our lives, especially positively, we have to challenge these comfort zones. If Are there people, again, places, things that you're doing or going to that are comfortable, familiar, and predictable to the point where you don't even challenge them, you don't even question them? I had friends that I would hang around with, and I never, until I started challenging myself, I never even checked with what they were, was what they were saying good or right, or was it gonna help me? Was it gonna build my marriage back up? Was it gonna help me grow? You know, I had friends that were telling me, yeah, I wouldn't just throw something at him, I'd shoot him, you know, things like, no, you shouldn't shoot your husband.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So, these are areas, if we wanna make a commitment to something, a goal that we've set or established, we've got to challenge these comfortable areas of our lives, the comfortable, the familiar, and the predictable. And it is hard, because we're creatures of habit. So, you know, coming home from a hard day's work, the first thing I wanna do is make something to eat, sit down, and watch Wheel of Fortune. That's our life, you know? But if I wanna set a goal of doing something, you know, whatever that goal is, I have to challenge that. You know, maybe I shouldn't just sit down after supper, maybe I should get up and I should go and do something to.
Are you looking at me?
Because he loves Wheel of Fortune.
When everything and everybody is comfortable, and everything and everybody is familiar, and everything and everybody is predictable, you cannot change. And we fight for that. Well, you know, it's Monday night, it's two, you know, and we have our schedule to try to make everything comfortable, familiar, and predictable. That might be the first thing you need to change. If everybody is comfortable, nobody challenges you to read or take a class or learn, you know, are they really helping you? If you know when I get together with him or her, this is gonna be predictable, familiar, this is what we're gonna do, right?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard as adults. I think it's easier for kids to change and to get out of their comfort zone, depending on their personality, than it is for us adults, because we just, you know, thrive. I'll even use this classroom. We're in week 3, and most of you have established your comfortable place to sit. And if I wouldn't have said anything, you would have came in. Now maybe next week you all sit in different places. But we're creatures of habit, and we love things that are comfortable and familiar and predictable. But I'm telling you, in order to establish clarity and set goals, we've got to get out of those triplets. And it's not easy.
And those things can become distractions, which need to be, so people, places, things can be distractions that you have to eliminate, that no one else can. You have to choose. Now, we're not talking about killing anybody, or we don't teach divorce. We're saying, so she stopped visiting her mom as regularly to cut back till we got healthier, right? But that was a distraction she had to, I couldn't eliminate it for her. And I had to stop hanging with the 3 guys that I was hanging with, because we were chasing women, smoking weed, drinking, doing all kinds of stuff. She couldn't eliminate that for me.
Yeah. Now, if you're married and you have someone in your life that is not acting proper, that you feel is not doing what a husband or a wife should do in a marriage, there's nothing wrong with communicating that. I mean, I would communicate that to Mike. I'd say, Mike, you're married, you should be home. We've got this little girl, we could be doing things together. And then at first he just went out, that that was frustrating, that was very frustrating. But as I began to pray and grow in my faith, I realized that he was gonna be held accountable for that, those decisions, not me. I was only gonna be held accountable for the way I acted and the way I reacted. So, it's challenging. Okay, so then number 3 is consistency. So we've established clarity, we're starting to, make goals for ourselves. We've dedicated or committed ourselves to that, and consistency is the wisdom to practice self-discipline daily, and this builds confidence by reaching short-term goals. So for me, it was like minute by minute, hour by hour. If we had an incident like that, and I told him, you should be staying home with us, blah, 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 and he went, that was a victory. Oh, I didn't scream and yell, I didn't throw something at him. He would leave, and me and my daughter, we would turn the music on, we'd have a little party together, because I felt like I had a short-term goal that was reached. Daily focus on your priorities and goals without a major setback. This is consistency. You're establishing consistency with short-term goals that eventually build up into long-term goals. But when you fall and when you do something wrong that you know you shouldn't do, you don't beat yourself up. Just set another goal, and go for the next one.
So, in addition to that, you wanna have a contingency plan. So, how many people drive? You drive a car or something? So most of us have a contingency plan, we have a spare, we have a jack. We don't get in the car and go, oh, I hope I have a flat. But you have the tire there in case you get a flat. So a contingency plan is very, very important. Consistency is in every area of life. If you consistently exercise, you'll lose weight, feel better, there'll be benefits of that, right? If you consistently read, you consistently educate yourself, yes, thank you. You can learn. If you consistently do push-ups or sit-ups, those muscles will get better, tighter, stronger. So consistency goes all the way across. You show up for work consistently, your employer is likely to be happier with you than, oh, you're here on time one day, the next day you're late, you're here, you're late, you don't come, there's no consistency. So consistency is the proof of passion, and it proves that I'm committed, and I can only be committed when I know my condition of where I am. That's why this is such a powerful lesson. All right, I'm gonna talk to you as we close here about the 3 levels of clarity using a television example, because we're all familiar with television. Some of us, like me, are old enough to remember black and whites, right? Who remembers the black and whites? Yeah. As a little boy, this lady that took me in bought me a black and white television. And I'd be sitting there watching the football game, and the announcer would say, oh, the Cardinals are in their red jerseys. And I'd look at the TV and I'd be like, dude, it's a gray jersey, it's black, I don't know what you're talking about. Dolphins are in their aqua jerseys, right? Everything was black and white. And most of us walk around in a black and white world. It's kind of like this fog tonight.
Great.
Right? It's not clear, not totally confident of where I'm headed, but I've settled for this, right? So most of us walking around in this fog and kind of a black and white world. So I'm gonna use television to show you this. So I firmly believe that whoever created the black and white television had high definition color TV in mind. I'm sure that was their dream. They just didn't know how to do it back then, right? So begin with the end in mind. That's vision. So what Jackie did was she began to do something we call in counseling, practicing the future in the present. So you look out to the future and you say, that's what I want to be. Where do we want our relationship to be come Valentine's Day? Where do we want it come Memorial Day? Where do we want our relationship 4th of July? So sometimes you can follow the holidays on the calendar almost, right? You're looking out, man, come the 4th of July, I wanna love Jackie more, she wants to love me more, we wanna go on a vacation, so I'm looking out there. So how do I get there? I'm gonna practice it in the present. I'm gonna try to groom Jackie and condition her to love me more, and she's gonna try to do the same thing, and that's fine. Practicing the future. My vision is to have a stronger relationship. Every Friday we do a date night. We've been married 44 years, we're like high school kids. We're blessed right now, we can drive to work together and back, and we'll be asking each other, every other Friday, you know, she picks one Friday, I pick the next, where we're gonna go, what we're gonna do. We don't spend a lot of money most of the time. We usually end up going out to eat or picking up some food. Sometimes, you know, we might go to a movie if there's something we can watch. We're practicing loving on each other in the present so that when we get to the future, we haven't missed anything, right? So we're actually practicing the future in the present. Vision is begin with the end in mind. Where do you want to be come Valentine's Day? With your struggle in your life or your relationship. Where do you want to be 2 years from now? Do you have the job you want, the education you need? If not, what are you going to do about it? How will your vision impact your present? What steps will you take, right? So begin with the end in mind. And then you move over to that column there, it says the focus. The stronger the focus, the clearer the picture. Right? So usually if you look at something for a while, you know, it becomes a bit clearer. Even if you might not have your glasses, it'll usually come a little bit clearer, right? But the stronger your focus, the clearer the picture, which leads me into color TVs. So I was a little guy when my neighbors got a color TV. They got a floor model console. I was probably 6 or 7 years old, so this is like 1966, 67, the old days. And they invited me over on a Saturday night, I'll never forget this, to watch a movie. They said, Mike, we want you to come over, you know, at 7 o'clock on Saturday night to watch this movie. I'm thinking, what's the big deal? So I go over, their youngest sister was like a year older than me, so we were tight. We actually called each other cousins. And so her and I are sitting on the floor in front of the TV, and all the older kids are sitting on chairs and couches. And I keep turning around to the older kids, what's the big deal? It's black and white, it's just like my TV at home. You know, what's the big deal? It's black and white. And they kept saying, Mike, be patient, just be patient. And then all of a sudden, the TV had color on it. And the movie was The Wizard of Oz, when Dorothy got into Oz and everything, and I was like, whoa! I had never seen a color TV before, right? Poor little kid. I had never seen a color TV, so my understanding of the movie increased because I could see it clearer. Okay, the jerseys were red then. I could see it clearer, so my understanding, vision leads to focus, focus leads to understanding. The clearer the picture, the greater the understanding. So now I quit turning around talking about what's the difference. I'm just mesmerized now. I have never seen a movie in color. This was like getting an iPhone back then, right? So then what happens is your expectation increases. The clearer you see something, the clearer your vision is and the tighter your plan is, and you start walking towards. So my first year in school, you know, I'm coming home. Don't speak to me. Yes, I'm a Christian, but you know, and then the second year, as I got closer to graduation, I was like happier because the expectation was I'm about to get my paper, and when I get my paper, I'm going to be able to counsel with people and do groups and do training. I've had the privilege of training judges and DAs. That God opened those doors, but I had to get the paper first to be able for the door to be open. So I had to have a vision that I was walking toward, right? So the greater the understanding, the clearer the picture, the greater the understanding. The greater the understanding, the greater the expectation. As you start to walk towards your goal and you start taking ownership, and she started, what really turned me around was, because in my mind, now this was wrong. I'm just gonna tell you what I was thinking. In my mind, I wanted to get into a fight with her when I was shaving and getting ready to leave, because in my mind, it justified me leaving. And for months, she fed right into it. We get into a fight, and I leave, and I feel good about it. Yeah, I get out, my guys are, oh, here you are. Yeah, man, she tried to stop me, but, you know, we got into it, and I told her off, and blah, 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 all of this stuff, right? Because I didn't have any expectation that things were gonna change. As she started to understand the Word of God and that what she needed to do was pray for me and live the best Christian life she could, that's what started attracting me back to her, like, wait a minute, why is she not fighting with me? You know, sometimes she would actually iron my clothes for me. I'm like, wow, what's going on here? It just flipped me out, but it caused my expectation to grow. The greater the understanding, the greater the expectation. And then you move into high definition is where we all need to be. We all need high definition about ourselves and about others. So I have to tell this story. A friend of mine, Brad Evans, some of you guys might know Brad. He lives a couple blocks from me. This was, man, 14, 15 years ago now. I'm a cheapskate. So we didn't have a flat screen. We had a nice color TV, but I'm not buying a flat screen, you know. So I remember calling up Brad on a Saturday. I was trying to do something around the house, and I think I needed to borrow a drill. And he, oh yeah, come on over and get it. So I walked over there. I think I walked over there, and he's like, come on in the house. You know, the badges are on. I'm like, no, I gotta get this project done. You know, Jackie's on my back. I gotta get this project done. And he, come on now, just come in and watch a few minutes of the game with me. And I walked into his den, and as I walked in, he had a flat screen mounted on the wall. And I was sitting there, and I could literally count the blades of grass. And I was like, I need to get one of these. But I'm too cheap. But I was mesmerized because it was in high definition. I could see it so clearly. You know what happens when you start achieving your goal? When you take ownership and you say, hey, I'm not going down this road anymore. This is who I want to be. And this is my plan to get there. The definition becomes really good. So your motivation increases. Your motivation to change increases. The greater the expectation, the greater the motivation to achieve. The closer every time I finish the class, like, oh, okay, I don't have to take that class again. I do another class, and the credits are adding up, and they're adding up, and they're in, you know, yeah, you graduate in May. Like, oh, I actually did it, right? I was doing correspondence classes and all of this stuff. I counted one day, I have over 1,000 hours of just training.